Everybody. 1,089 days today since Richard vanished. From the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas, but he didn't just vanish. Something happened, and every day we get closer. Every day we get new leads. We have a new lead today that, you know, uh, I don't know, maybe someone can shed a light on. Um, it's just an address. It's just an address. And so I don't know what happened at this address. I don't know what this address is about. I would like to know if anyone knows anything. So let me get on here and see if everything is okay, if everyone can hear me. Um, there I am. Okay. Okay. So I had a great day today. Met a fantastic teacher. I really enjoyed speaking with her about different things going on in politics and with Richard's case. And she gave me some great insights. But she's a teacher of the classical method. If you haven't heard of the classical method, it is grammar, logic, rhetoric, debate. And so what that is used to be in schools the first 6 years you call it grammar, and you would learn the mechanics of the language, right? Your alphabet, all the way to spelling, all the way to writing and reading, and just the real basics, uh, and of course arithmetic. And then you move on to logic. Okay, you have the mechanics of the language. Now, how do you think? How can you think things through? How do you discern? What do you use to think and discern? That's called logic. And I'm just doing this off the top of my head. I'm sure there's a much better description. And then you move on. You do that for a couple years and you move on. And of course, you're reading great books during that time, right? You are reading the great thinkers. And then you move on to rhetoric. If you uh, have a great knowledge of the mechanics of the language and you know how to think, then you can learn how to express it. So you're going to do a lot of writing, a lot of poetry, a lot of memory work, of course, and all of that. And you're going to then start giving your arguments for how you feel about different things. And which leads into the next stage, which is debate, making your argument against someone that has an opposing argument. So that if you're fighting for the light and someone else is fighting for the dark, um, you have a debate, and it's very educational. So that's the classical, and you can, of course, write your debate. You can speak your debate. You can sing your debate. Um, and it really is a wonderful way to learn this classical method. It's called the trivium. And of course, debate is added on to the trivium. So to meet someone like that and to discuss things, they can really teach you a lot. And she did. And it was really a wonderful day to, um, yeah, to run into someone like that. And you feel like you've known them for years and years. So that was a real blessing. And it gave me a shot in the arm and also a different view of what is going on in Richard's case. And then I got home and we received another lead. And the lead is 3,400, the 3,400 block of Van Buren. Um, I looked it up. Let me see if I can put it up here. The 3,400 block of Van Buren right there. So here it is. 3,400 Van Buren Avenue. I don't know if this is the house, right? I don't know. Let's look at it. I think it's up for sale or did just recently sell, sale. But this house right here, I don't know. Does anyone know about this house? Has anybody heard about this house? About any event that might have happened in this house? Um, I just don't know. I just don't know. So maybe the CID can shed some light on it. Um, yeah, let's see. Let's go here and look in the back and see if we can see anything. So here it is. Here's this house. I'll move over a little bit more. Seems to have some kind of garage here. Seems to go down. Um, yeah, it seems to go down. It looks like maybe it has a basement. Maybe it has a basement. Um, yeah, if anyone knows about that, that would really help. You can call 941-677-0060 if anyone knows about 3,400 Van Buren Avenue. Okay. Of course, we had the very big news yesterday about Richard. And, you know, this case is not just about Richard, it is about the Fort Bliss installation, it is about our service members, and of course, it is about El Paso, and it is about Juarez, Mexico. So, um, everything has a karma, and, I call it a sanctification. Everything is sanctified. Um, if something good happens, you know, it rubs off and it goes and it spreads. And when bad things happen, that spreads too. And El Paso is such a beautiful city with such a great history. And I can say that because I was born very near in White Sands, and I went to school there for kindergarten through fourth grade. I went to school there for middle school. And so um, definitely it has, I have a lot of memories, a lot of really good memories about that area and about being able to go over to Juarez when I was a young girl without fear. And now, um, they want to block, like soldiers can't even go and experience Juarez because it's such a dangerous city, quote unquote. But I think Fort Bliss, the installation is dangerous. I think that El Paso is becoming dangerous. I mean, look at the two soldiers that just committed murder again. Look at on Fort Bliss, all the security breaches that is causing a 14-year-old girl to be living in the barracks, to be uh, prostituted out. And that happens, you know, all night long. And it makes me sick to think about what these children go through. And I think the Sound of Freedom movie that's playing in a theater near you, even though you might not hear about it and you might not see the marquees, um, I had to hunt for the marquee on our theater. But we went to go see it, and it was not vulgar, but it got the point across about the child sex trafficking. And not just child sex trafficking. There's a part in there where they're harvesting cocaine leaves, and that the little girl is stomping on the leaves. So, it's all about when you have child sex trafficking, it also involves drug trafficking, and then it involves guns, right? And then it involves ammunition, and then supplies. And this is what Richard, we're getting information that he complained to CID, about the sale of equipment, the sale of arms, the sale of ammunition, um, within the unit. That, you know, this was not just about the child sex trafficking or the grooming of our soldiers into these sex cults, that seem to be, like, uh, popping up everywhere because, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why these sex cults, are popping up everywhere unless it's being groomed to a huge extent, because there's so much more to life than just sex cults, right? And that's why I try to add some variety in the posts, and maybe I should do more, um, to let people know that there's more to life than just criminal activity or joining the military or sex cults, um, and trying to, the survival of the fittest. Uh, that's not, um, the way to live either. Survival of the fittest. That there is other options. There is esprit de corps. There is, leave no soldier behind in an army of one, and the Good Samaritan. So, okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about my posts. I just mentioned the lead that we got today of 3400 Van Buren. So something seemed to happen there. And I posted up, about dark and light because, of course, we have these autopsies that have never been debunked. You would think that, Major General Eisenhower would confirm or deny that these, exist. That Judge Robert Lee Shook would, because we sent him an inquiry, and of course we sent Major General Eisenhower another inquiry, or just an update today. Really, it's an update. Um, and so this mishandling of Richard's remains is a huge allegation that we have. Who mishandled the remains? Who oversaw, um, the mishandling of Richard's remains? And, did they fail to properly identify Richard's remains and go through the proper protocols to identify Richard's remains? Um, I don't think that they were followed because we haven't been, uh, contacted and told this information. So this includes, if they're going to, okay, what is the motive for them to do this? This is something I've been asked. If Richard's remains have been found, and there's 3 autopsy reports, and remains were found in Juarez, Mexico. Remains were found in Red Rio Range, and remains were found outside of, right there in a training area on Fort Bliss. If remains were found, and what would motivate them to cover that up, to use their tools and their power to manipulate the system, get the people in that would go along with this, and cover up finding Richard's remains? Okay, what would motivate them? Well, I would never even think, this goes to what I just was talking about at the beginning of this, the grammar, the logic, the rhetoric, and the debate. I would never even entertain this, but since we're at 1089 days, and since they lied to us about Richard even being missing, Richard being a whistleblower, they lied to us about Nadal Baim, they lied to us about so many other things that we knew, we saw in their shakiness, we saw in their protocols, their lack of protocols, the retaliation against Richard, which has now been sanitized off of his record, and he's been promoted twice. But back then, they were trying to make him into like an Al Capone, and it was absolutely insulting and ridiculous. The overreach that they went to, they couldn't even do that right. I mean, the overreach was just incredible and unbelievable, absolutely insane. And so, how they were going about this, and we've been getting all this information coming in. What would possess them to hide Richard's remains? Why would the FBI hide Richard's remains? And why would the FBI, who told us that Nadal Baim was a nobody, okay, why would they see it necessary then to take over the investigation of Richard's case on that exact day, October 26, 2020? Yeah, so who really is investigating this case when we have the information that the FBI took over the investigation, not the CID, but that the FBI did? And we on October 26, 2020, and yet we know with the Hunter Biden case right now, what's going on and all the testimonies, that the FBI with the whistleblowers, what's going on with the whistleblowers, that they have been, they're just rotten to the core. They're just up to no good. And I'm sure there's an exception to the rule in there somewhere. But they've been compromised, totally compromised. And many people are saying that they can't even be saved. This agency can't even be saved. And on the same day they tell us, or I don't think they told us that day, maybe a couple days later, but the same day that we give them the CCTV footage of Nadal Baim and the video footage of the cashier, saying essentially that the FBI found Richard's remains in Juarez, Mexico, right? So that same day they took over the case. So there's been a real lack of transparency and a real display that they would do anything. And because of the pressure, because Caleb Smither, that case has been opened again, because of Caleb Smither, because of Vanessa Guillen, because of Enrique Roman Martinez, because of Austin Hawk, which are very, very important when you're talking about April, May, and June. You have April, Vanessa, May, Enrique, June, Austin Hawk, and then early July, the findings of Vanessa Guillen, because Richard is the Vanessa Guillen first absent soldier, but her remains were announced to the world early in July that they had found her remains in in a really, really bad state. Right? It was it was brutal, and this whole thing was so brutal that 14 officials lost their job. So they did not lose their job the beginning of July. It was, I believe, in September. It might have been even later than that. But the announcement that they found Vanessa's remains came out at the beginning of July, and then Richard went missing the 23rd of July, and then remains found on the 29th of July, and then there was a confession on the 6th of August, and then there was another finding of remains, and then there was an autopsy. Just really quick off the bat, this, of course, later on, more remains being found, and surrounding the date of October 19th of 2020, being the ones in Juarez. And then, of course, the 26th of October, the confession from Nadal Bayim about the FBI. The FBI takes over, and they're looking for remains again in December during Christmas time. So, and that is just a very quick overview. We have it detailed by detailed by detailed. It fits together like a glove, these autopsy reports and the different measurements of time that we are using from screenshots, from meetings, from absolutely verifiable events like, hey, did you know that Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe is looking for Richard's remains at the training area, the mock Afghanistan training village? Yeah, so, you know, that is a fact that happened. We contacted him. He said, yes, he is looking for Richard's remains there. And then, of course, there was the Hondo Pass remains, uh, which is another interesting bit to this story. So, yeah, why would they cover this up? Why would they fail to properly follow the protocols that would be very respectful to us? Well, because they were covering for themselves. I mean, it was bad. It was so bad. When you have the head of a soldier rolling ashore, you have a Vanessa Guillen situation where she is bludgeoned to death so bad and then cut up and burnt and buried in a very sophisticated grave with lime and concrete. Um, and then, of course, Austin Hawk being viciously murdered in his barracks room. Yeah, there is a motive. Cover yourself, try to save your job at the highest, You see, this wasn't about the junior NCOs. This was all about the top leadership. And they absolutely have the power to cover this up. And so there was a huge lack of communication. You all know that, still is to this day, and transparency. And so, it's not far reaching to say that and they discovered Richard's remains and they kept it a secret. That's not a far reach anymore, y'all. They're so they're so intertwined. The web that they have weaved. This is so it's getting so obvious today that they will go to any extent. Whistleblowers are now beheaded. Whistleblowers are brutally murdered. Whistleblowers are retaliated against so bad that they are suicided, right? So this is not far reaching that they would absolutely cover up the findings of remains of our son. And it explains so many things when it comes to the Interpol. It explains everything with the probable cause. You can't say that you have a probable cause that Richard is armed and dangerous when Richard is dead, when Richard is chopped up. He's no danger to anybody. And so they had no probable cause to search our home but because the sheriff knows a sheriff and whatever that will do this, or that they know a judge, it's the judge that knows a judge, you see. Judge Robert Shook, this is our allegation, knows a judge. So El Paso reaching out to Sarasota, Florida to ask for a favor, or maybe it was through St. Louis, because, they told us, oh, it looks like it's from St. Louis. So is that the FBI? Is that, it's high officials anyway. It's people that can get things done without too many other people knowing about it. And so they call in and they go, oh yeah, we'll make this a good one. We'll intimidate. We'll end this. We'll scare this family. We're not intimidated. We're not afraid. And we absolutely are not unaware of the amount of evil that we need to be afraid of. We understood that during COVID too. It wasn't COVID that you needed to be afraid of. It was the narrative that you needed to be afraid of, and the testing. I kept saying the testing is the real demon. So we absolutely understand that these people have power, that they have not good intentions, and they don't like it when when loved ones want answers. Where is Richard? What happened to Richard? Where is the accountability? What was the environment like that caused this? How could this happen? Because not only do we want to know where our son is, and at this point he's presumed murdered, and we want his remains, and we want to give him a proper burial. It's very important for us, for anybody that has loved ones. But also, if this is what's going on in our military, then the problem is a threat to all Americans, is a threat to our country, because we're not being defended then if this is what's going on in the military. So that's why I think we're obviously we understand what's uh, at risk, and we're weighing that risk, and we're picking our country. We're picking our son. We're picking El Paso. We're picking Fort Bliss. We're picking the service members over and above our own welfare. And we've talked about it a lot because it has to be done. There's really no other choice. And people understand that. We've gotten a lot of support. We've gotten retaliation. But we've gotten a lot of support for that. So we're absolutely doing the right thing, we believe, to try to get answers for our son. And we absolutely believe that there is interference with our case, that we're being denied due process, that obstruction of justice is happening, and that at the very beginning, the 29th of July 2020, they found partial remains. And they hid that from us. And on August 6th, I believe it's August 6th, sometime around there, but I think that's the right date, there was a confession to the murder of Richard. We believe that also. And that led to identifying more areas where they could find his remains. And that explains so much of this trail that we have been given. And now, I don't know how this plays a part, this Van Buren house. So if anyone can shed a light on that, that would be very, very helpful. 941-677-0060. And I do want to address, this is the 19th of July. Last night, it just dawned on me that we're getting very close to the 3-year mark that Richard vanished. And there's no excuse for that we don't have closure. We're still at heading to the 3-year mark without closure. It really is a display of the incompetency or the compromised, the corruption, the criminal syndicate within our military. That's what is at display here. And our agencies, not just our DOD, but the agencies also. Because where is the DA? Where is the AG? Where is the IG? Where is the AUSAs? Where are they? And the other thing too is it's a display of the betrayal of our representatives. Because where is Vanity Fair Veronica? Right? Where is Lindsey Graham? Where is, I know William Timmons, I know where he's at. He's up to no good. So, absolutely, where are they? And we're coming up to the 3-year mark. And if you would like to send a letter to Major General Eisenhower, to Governor Abbott, to Attorney General Paxton of Texas, of Attorney General for the Western District of Texas, Jaime Esparza. If you want to write a letter to the DA, Bill Hicks, which we'll be addressing too in the next couple days. There's been developments in that. So, absolutely, absolutely, we will let you know about that. So, I'm reading through my notes to read off the complaints that Richard made to Child Protective Services, which I think is very important, that need to be read off again. And it is that Richard reported instances of child endangerment the first time, with physical abuse and neglect involving specific children. And he expressed his, he was so worried. And absolutely, Allison said, Mom, he would not let that slide if children were being hurt. So he expressed his deep concern for their safety and their well being, and he urged them to move quickly, to intervene swiftly. And it didn't happen. And he went back a second time. And he reported, and this was confirmed by Belen Rocha, this was confirmed by CPS, that Richard made these Child Protective Service complaints. And we're working on new developments happened with Rob, and we're working on getting having another avenue of getting these Child Protective Service complaints. So I think it's very important um, that you pray that we get these Child Protective Service complaints. The second one that was, a lead given out to us is that Richard was reporting allegations of criminal activities, including child exploitation, trafficking, drug related offenses, and of course, drug related offenses. And then he went to the CID to um, blow the whistle on the sale of equipment and um, weapons and ammunition outside of it, from within his unit. So the second time Richard complained, he implicated certain individuals that were involved in the illicit activities that posed a threat to the safety and welfare of children. And then the third complaint that Richard made was to express his frustration that they weren't doing anything, that CPS was not doing anything. And he said, look, you know, this is urgent. There's children involved here. And we saw that in the Sound of Freedom, the true story of Sound of Freedom, where some people they just don't understand that children are being hurt here and you need to act on it. So that was his complaint. So I think that was very, very important. And then I want to review this very important development yesterday when it comes to security. So what happened yesterday is an official, and I know more, but I just am not at liberty to say. We've got to keep a little bit of safety on this. But an official goes in, and it's a very important official, y'all, that is now a whistleblower, goes into JAG on Fort Bliss and says, look, I want to tell you that I've witnessed something very derelict, that the whole measure, the actions taken against an officer of the court who is one of the key witnesses in the Richard Halliday case, was retaliated against, starting here in this office, in this JAG office. And I'm telling you, it's deficient because there is no packet. So, why isn't there a packet? And a packet is essential because it is all the documentation of the investigation that backs up why these negative actions against an individual needs to take place. There's a due process, right? There's a fairness in all of this. And there's an absence of that. There's no packet. And so this official was saying there's no packet. So due process has been violated. This person's rights have been violated. And negative actions were taken against this key witness in Richard Halliday's case, and I'm here to report it. But the JAG, shaking in their boots, shaking, y'all. This is a report that we had. Did not accept or acknowledge that whistleblower report because they were afraid. They were afraid of Major General Eisenhower. Now that's crazy, and that's lawless. So now you've got liability on both the JAG and Major General Eisenhower. So the protocols were not followed. This was absolutely an act of retaliation, and we sent that information in. But we were more specific because we have names. I don't think we used names, but we were more specific on description. And we'll see what happens. It seems that, yeah, we'll see what happens. But something is going to crack, and then they're going to be left holding all of these inquiries and requests by us, and they will not be able to say that they did not know, that they did not have the opportunity to do the right thing. And the sad thing about this whole debauched investigation is that if it wasn't for the debauched investigation, we wouldn't even know so many things. So, which I think puts a lot of hope when you have these criminal syndicates and you have lie upon lie upon lie. Everyone knows that you just cannot cover up for the lie forever. All right, the lie sooner or later comes out. And that's a really important memory fact that we need to remember, that they might seem to have a lot of power, but because they're criminal and because they're lie after lie after lie, it's a tough spot. Because the truth will come out and they'll get caught, and they're in Texas and there is a death penalty, and there is, they need to be held accountable for all the crime that they have committed. So thank you so much, Anicia. Thank you so much, Danielle, for coming on. And I don't know if you know 3400 Van Buren. I don't know if you know that, but that's something that we're inquiring about, a lead that we received, what happened there. We have some crazy stories, but we want to, we want to verify. We want hard facts. And so that tells you a little bit about the autopsies, that we're pretty sure about the autopsies, and we're almost sure enough to release it about the confession of murdering Richard. that we have someone confessing and giving the reason why of murdering Richard. And there's no doubt um, that major crimes have been committed, a lot of foul play. So, okay, this is, I know I'm getting shorter and shorter, but I I think it's very, very important to make sure that everyone has an update every day of our son's case and why it's so important to share to get this message out. We can't allow anyone to go through what we're going through. And there's a lot going on behind the scenes that I'm not at liberty to say. But I'm really hoping that you will share. We love you so much. And we couldn't do this without you. And so we're still trying to get answers for all of the irregularities, they call them irregularities. And sooner or later, this will break. And who knows, maybe something simple like an address is what's going to break it. Maybe 34 Van Buren has something really. Why would someone bother giving that to us if it was nothing? Right? Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. God bless you. And I'll be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye bye.